you having sex and relationship that looks fine on the outside, but it doesn't actually feel satisfying on the inside? If so, stay with me, because today's conversation might just shift how you think about desire, power, and connection. Welcome to the Better Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Catt, a certified tantric educator, dominatrix, and sex and relationship coach with over 20 years of experience helping people create connection that feels alive, honest, and deeply satisfying. This is where we have real conversations about sex and relationships and what actually works. If you're ready to take your sex and love life from stuck to satisfying, head over to deborahcat.com or check out the show notes to book a bedroom breakthrough session. It's a personalized one-on-one experience designed to help you reconnect to your desire and start creating the sex life you really want. Because a podcast can spark your curiosity, but transformation comes from practice. And if you want to help get out the word about these conversations, please hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone who truly needs to hear it. Today, I'm joined by Master Hines. I've known Hines for many years as a teacher and a mentor. He's been a part of the BDSM community for decades. His work is rooted in spirituality through power exchange, deep presence, and a level of care that goes beyond technique. In this conversation, we're diving into how the BDSM scene has changed over the years, how power and mentorship and intentional intensity shape not just play, but the quality of sex and relationships overall. So I am so delighted to have you here with us today. On a very personal note, I've gotten to be in person with Hines many times, and I have to say, a scene we did is one of my top 10 favorites. So I'm particularly thrilled and a little bit fangirly over here. So I'm so happy to have you. Welcome, Master Hines.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how your story, like how did you come to BDSM, and how has it shaped you?
Okay, so basically what happened was just trying to be a good lover with um, partners and girlfriends. Um, Slowly, I started incorporating more and more things that I guess now you would call kinky. And at some point, somebody uh, kind of spoke about the fact that, I was dominant and actually gave me the book 9.5 weeks. And from there, I kind of started exploring what I didn't know was called BDSM at the time, but started exploring that. And then, I grew up in New York City. So I remember going to Hellfire in in the lower West Side, which was a kinky club, which was extremely kinky. And so I went there a couple of times, paddles. And then my relationship shifted to more DNS type relationships. And then in 1991, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And in 92, that's where I found People Exchanging Power, PEP, which was run by Lady D. And she became my first mentor. And from there, I was home and just felt very deeply into the BDSM community. And at that time, you were mentored in the community, or at least some of us were anyway. So I had, Lady D, Master Doug, and Mistress K as my mentors in learning how to navigate the BDSM scene and how to become a dominant, how to become a master, and stuff like that.
And what did mentoring look like in those days for you?
Well, in those days, mentoring was you being in the community and the elders were around and they oversaw the community. They held sway over the community. And so, you know, there was a kind of hierarchy in the community. So you told the line and you knew how to behave. And if you really wanted to get deeply into the lifestyle, uh, these people knew it and they mentored you and taught you the ways in which to be.
And when you say the lifestyle, what do you mean by that?
Well, I use the term lifestyle that so many terms people use in BDSM nowadays. I use the term lifestyle in meaning that as opposed to just going to a party on Saturday and flogging somebody or spanking somebody. No, it's more of a lifestyle. It's something that I do 24/7. It is a an aspect of my life, very important aspect of my life.
Mhm. And how does it sort of weave its way in your current life?
Well, in many ways. One is obviously I still participate in going to play parties and I teach classes. Um, and also having come up in that way, it pretty much shaped my personality. It shaped my character. So we were brought up on things like etiquette and community and service, and even as a dominant or a master, you're still um, serving the community. And so by being around these incredible dynamic people, it really did shape the persona that I have now.
Mhm. And I'm curious, like, it sounds like in your development, community was a big part of that. And how would you say that what would you say about the community that we're seeing today?
Oh, well, communities change. The community back in my day, you have to remember that that was when BDSM was still um, in the closet. It was
Mhm,
behind closed doors.
mhm,
Also, this is before the internet. This is 1992, 93, 94. This is before the internet and before social media and all that kind of stuff. So it was a different type of community. And because it was such a closed community, everybody knew each other. And
mhm,
so when you were new, if you came into the community, you were spotted
mhm,
and pretty much watched over or whatever. And so it was very important that we took care of each other. Also, it was during those times, what we were doing was still kind of illegal, at least thought to be pretty deviant psychologically. And so you could lose your job, you could lose your home, you could lose, you know, your marriage, you could
mhm.
lose your kids. It was a serious time, and so you had to be very careful who knew what you were doing, and so we took care of each other more. It was a time where, yeah, you had to be very careful, and so we took care of each other.
It's funny hearing you say that. I also, started out pre-internet, and luckily I was in San Francisco, so, there was I would say probably a little easier to find looking in the backs of, The Guardian or in the back of Spectator back in the day. Um and and I really wanna highlight, this idea that when someone new came in, they would get a lot of attention and they'd get a lot of advice. And oftentimes it would be like, "Hey, keep your eye on this person." Um, and and we often, because there was so much public play, like, it's funny to say that it was, like, behind closed doors, and yet there was a lot of public play, and you had the opportunity to see someone play, right? You had the opportunity to watch them, go through a scene. It's like, were they and did you like their style?
All
Did
right.
did
And,
did you like their Go ahead.
yeah, and to that point, people like my style or they like the way in which I play, and I'm very honored by that. But pretty much, I'm just a product of all the incredible scenes that I've seen
Mhm,
and witnessed over the years. The way we were brought up in the community, it was watch and learn.
mhm,
And so you sat over to the side and you watched these incredible scenes by these incredibly experienced people, and it made its mark. And it really did have a big influence on how you play.
mhm,
When you ask about like what are some of the differences now, there there is a kind of mindset that kind of permeates the dungeon now that you're not supposed to watch too intently, or you're supposed to be careful to watch but don't leer and that kind of a thing. And I understand that to a certain degree, but the fact is the way in which most of us learned our craft was by watching. I mean, intently watching.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. We weren't. We weren't. We weren't afraid of people looking at us while we played. And maybe there were some people that were leering. I mean, but mostly, that was how we learned our craft was by
Mm-hmm.
watching other incredible people.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, what do you think? What is the anatomy of a good scene?
That's the age old question. Um, well, and I have my take on it. Part of it is a large part of it is a mutual understanding of what is wanted or needed out of a scene. So then, therefore, you're really focused on the bottom. It's nice to be really good with toys, but those toys have to be at the service of a good scene for the bottom. So I make the differentiation between people who are toy centric and bottom centric.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to watch. I mean, you just watch somebody and literally they're just having fun playing with their toys. And they can almost be flogging or caning a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you can watch other people that you can see that it's not so much the toy, it's the interaction that they're having with the bottom. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
big difference. And it's definitely felt by the bottom. Um, and that's what I think makes for a really good scene that it's not about the toy, it's about the connection between the top and the bottom using the toy.
And what makes a good top or dominant? And I'm curious from your point of view the difference between a dominant and a top.
Here again.
Age old
Um,
question, I know.
yeah. So those terminologies get kind of confused nowadays. So a top applies to a scene, a top and a bottom.
Mm-hmm.
These are the two components, the two personas in a scene, a top and a bottom. A dominant refers to a relationship.
Mm.
This is my way of explaining it. A dominant refers to a relationship past scening or past sex.
Mhm.
So if I'm topping somebody, if I'm doing a scene, that doesn't necessarily mean when that scene is over that you're going to call me master, or even during the scene you're going to call me master. There is no um, there is no authority relationship going on there outside of the fact that I'm the top and you're the bottom and I'm spanking you. Being a dominant is a persona, and being in a dominant or dominant and submissive relationship is that persona in a relationship where 24/7 or for whatever time you know, that relationship is going on, there is an authority exchange going on.
Mhm.
Um, that has more to do with relationship than it has to do with play or sex. Not that you can't have play and sex in it, but the most important factor is the relationship, is the authority exchange in the relationship.
And what are some of the places where authority would be a and are you using authority exchange the same way that you might also use power exchange?
Yeah, everybody calls it different. Authority exchange, power exchange. There's a couple of other uh, ways in which people express that. Um, yeah, so yeah, I'm using the same way I would say power exchange.
Got it. And where are some of the places where in a longer term relationship someone might give up power or might give the authority to their partner, to their dom?
Well, again, I'm going to speak from my own experience and I guess my own past and my own mentoring. That is a committed relationship, and it's not a committed relationship. It's not a relationship with just everybody. So, although I'm a master and I'm a dominant, I'm not master and dominant to anybody else other than the people that actually agreed to to that kind of relationship.
Mhm.
But within that relationship, it is an agreed upon committed relationship. So, in terms of that relationship, at all times, I am the dominant, I am the master. they are the submissive or they are the slave. That
Hmm.
is the commitment that the two have made between themselves.
Hmm. And I'm now really curious. Like, do you tend to? So I'll just say in my experience when I was in a dom sub experience and in the dominant role, I used to create time containers. And what I mean by that is like we would have a contract or an agreement that lasted for a certain amount of time. And so, for instance, it would be, with one of my submissives, every 6 months we would have a recommitment ceremony. Um, and we did that for I think 2 or 3 times, and then at that point we were like, okay, I guess we're going to really do this thing. Um, but it was a very, it was very ritualistic. It was we sat down and we discussed a lot of the things and places where my power and authority would be uh, law, if you will. And then there were places where it was like, I'm not going to interfere in your business. I'm not going to interfere in, these are things that are that I don't have enough expertise or mastery to to make to make law around, if you will. And so, um, and it was a process. It was like, we had some time where, I think the first couple of months we just played in the sort of top bottom realm, and at a certain point it was like, oh, this is more of a relationship. And so I'm just kind of curious, if you'd be willing to share sort of the process of power exchange in some of your relationships.
Okay, so first and foremost, it kind of comes with a kind of mutual agreement that we want to enter into this kind of relationship. So I may have I may have an interest in somebody, or they may have an interest in me in terms of serving me. They would like to be my submissive one or my slave. Generally speaking, the way in which it is done is um, they would be put under consideration. If it's a mutual thing, if I really think, okay, this person might be a nice submissive, there would be a consideration period. And
Hmm.
that could last anywhere from a month to a whole year or 2 years, where you might still be interacting with each other, you might still be playing with each other. The person might even be serving you to a certain degree, but they are not actually fully fledged your slave or your submissive. They have not been collared, as it were,
Right.
because for this whole period of time, it's just consideration. A DS or MS relationship, master slave, dominant submissive relationship, is a very serious relationship. And so you don't want to just jump into it, as I have done sometimes, but you just don't want to jump into it because it's a very serious relationship with serious responsibilities and commitments. So at some point, ap- during that consideration, if it seems like it's a good match and it seems like this is somebody that I really do want to serve with me, we have a great connection, and they feel the same way, then it will move into now um, um, being collared and creating a contract or agreement for the relationship.
Hmm.
And during that consideration time, um, to a certain degree, they may be experiencing some of the protocols and trainings, just in terms of consideration. But then once they are collared, they are committed to those protocols and um, and regulations and rules that we both have agreed upon. And some of these protocols, you know, are just in terms of like honorifics, what to call me, or how to walk, how to serve, you know, dining protocols and other things like that. And there may be boundaries where the person doesn't, I don't, or the person doesn't want me involved in their finance, or there may be boundaries around um, you know other things that we just don't agree on.
Hmm.
So whatever it is that we create a contract on, whatever protocols are established, they have to be totally agreed upon.
Hmm.
Um, and because they're going to be expected to follow those protocols. So that's pretty much how it goes.
And do you how do I want to put this? So sometimes people in the BDSM community talk about family, and a dom or a master may have several subs or slaves within their family. And I'm curious if you'd be willing to talk a little bit about what your family looks like, or.
Yeah, so I've never actually had a family. Never had much interest in doing that, and God bless people who do it. It's incredible. That's amazing. Having a having a DS or MS relationship in and of itself is a lot of work. If you're doing it correctly, if you're
Mhm,
actually committed and doing it correctly, it's a lot of work. So there just has never been an instance where I wanted more than one. It's not that it will never happen.
mhm,
It's just that it's just not something that I've been very interested in doing. In a strange kind of a way, you could almost say that I have a kind of monogamous mindset around MS or DS.
mhm.
But it also has to be mentioned that I'm also married. So while I am married and have a wife, I will have a submissive or slave relationship in conjunction with that.
Thank you. And
That's about as far as I get to go to having a family because that's just way too much. I really like focused attention and a focused commitment to a relationship. And for me, just for me, that's just spreading myself a little bit too thin where I feel like I'm not at my best in terms of commitment to a relationship.
mhm,
I do play with a lot of people, but in
mhm.
terms of a actual solid MS or DS relationship, for the most part, my style has been just one on.
Got it. And I'm curious, like, for you, what makes a good dominant?
A good dominant, first of all, I think one of the main things, well, a couple things. One is moving your ego to the side. We've all had to learn that. Power is a very, very serious thing, and power does corrupt very easily.
Mhm,
You can start believing too much in yourself, taking advantage of the power that you have over somebody. So humility is very, very important. The next thing is really great, and they kind of go together. Really, really great um, communication skills and interpersonal skills,
mhm.
because basically you are in charge over somebody else. They are actually relying on your authority for this relationship. So the quality of your character is very, very important. And and the the signs of the quality of your character is your communication skills and your interpersonal skills and how you can handle situations.
Thank you. And I wanna just add in there that, what I'm hearing is partly, you know, saying what you're gonna do and following through to actually do what you're going to do. And if for some reason something has to change, changing it. Would that be
Yeah,
accurate?
yeah, I would say that's one of the easier things, although that takes work also. The harder thing is being prepared for the things you're not going to be able to be prepared for. Being in a relationship with somebody else, it's fine. Everybody puts their best foot forward.
Mhm,
What happens later on is when the skeletons come out
mhm,
or idiosyncrasies, the old adage to cap off the toothpaste and dirty laundry on the floor. When those idiosyncrasies come out, which you are just not prepared for, there's just no way you can know everybody's full life when you first meet them. And
mhm,
you're going to continue to meet them over periods of time. You know, the next 6 months, you find something else new. The next year, you find something else out. And we all change over time. And what happens with those things, um, situations arise, what we either call, you know, um, little bumps in the road, potholes, or abyss, you know, they come up and you have to be able to handle those things when they come up. I think of that as the responsibility of the Dom because you are the authority person in the relationship. And so as much as you can, you will never be prepared for everything. But you can have the character that can be there to handle situations when they arise.
Hmm. So we talked a little bit in offline, and I mentioned this in your intro about um, your roots in spirituality. And so I'm curious, first of all, what does that mean to you?
Oh God. So I have no spiritual practice. Um, I have no religion, but I do have a very deep seated sense of my own approach to spirituality, which kind of comes out of um, when I was younger and was studying things like Zen and Taoism and Buddhism, just reading up on these things, and also my interest in um, philosophy. Um, so, and when I was younger, I was in the church, in the Baptist church. I left the church when I was like 17 or 18. But these things still have an influence on you. Um, if not the religion, at least the teachings of the religion and the teachings of things like, Taoism and Zen and Buddhism. So these things kind of come into play for me in the scene, in terms of BDSM, mostly in the sense of knowing yourself,
Mhm.
being centered, knowing yourself, and then being able to relate to the other,
Mhm.
um, in a way that is connective and not destructive, but connective.
Mhm.
One of my favorite I haven't read her works, but I've listened to podcasts and debates about her work. Simone de Beauvoir,
Mhm.
I think that's her name. She has an interesting take. I don't like all her philosophies, but she has an interesting take on the relationship between you and the other and how that shapes you if you're paying attention relationally to the other. And in that case, that's very, very spiritual.
Mhm.
The other spiritual aspect in terms of play is the 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 actual physiological thing that happens during play, which is if you're doing a really good scene, you can create a sense of oneness and connectivity,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you can also create a sense of um, present mindedness. So, like I tell people, the way you want to scene is so that when you're scening with this person, they are so present. Then they're not thinking about the job. They're not thinking about the argument they have with the boyfriend or girlfriend. They're not thinking. They're present in this moment where everything is existing right then and there. That
That's
to me is extremely powerful.
beautiful. I love hearing that. And I'd like to add, my own take is that, when in a really good scene, it's, as you said, there's something bigger than the both of you. Right? Or however many people happen to be in the scene, but, like, there is this connected, present experience that, is bigger than the people within it, and something about that experience, at least for me, feels to be what I would consider to be spiritual. Um
Yeah, this it's to find activities that you can do in life where you and another or others are actually combining to become not necessarily one, but definitely in this kind of oneness together and creating something. I play music, so I'm usually playing with other musicians, and we get into a groove, we get into something that is really quite unique. You can do it with sex, and you can do it with BDSM, where you're doing a scene with somebody, and you're doing it to the point where you're not separate entities. You're actually almost like you know singularly connected to each other in a what I would call a very spiritual way.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the kinds of things that you teach and how you support others in having these experiences. Um, and I know I've been lucky enough again to take some classes with you. And what are you teaching these days that's fun and exciting for you?
Well, so you gotta understand the kind of evolution of me in the scene. So I've been in the scene now 33 years. I'm 69 years old. And so, in the beginning, I was pretty much just into sensory play, bondage and sensory play. So I would tie people up and use feathers and all kind of things for a kind of sensory experience. Move forward, I got into impact play, then heavy impact play, and nowadays I play anywhere between the sensuous and the sadistic. So it's pretty fascinating. So um, lately, some of the classes that I've been enjoying have been rough body play, primal play, things like that. But I still love teaching flogging and caning and impact play. And on top of that, I've been, well, the classes are usually technical in the sense of showing people how to use toys,
Mhm,
but I always fuse that with not just learning how to use the toy, but how to use the toys in the service of a scene and what a
mhm,
scene should look like. And as the top, what your responsibility is to the bottom in that scene. And as a bottom, what your responsibilities are in terms of informing the top so they can do the best job that they could do. So I'm teaching the technical aspects, but also trying to teach the connective aspects of the scene as well.
So I'm gonna have to ask a little bit more about what is rough body play and what is primal play?
Now, I'm going to give the definition that I use because, like in most kinks, um, people have their own way of doing things and their own definitions for these. So, rough body play is basically where you are um, using very physical. Um, you're being very physical with the bottom, and a lot of times these things are not using toys.
Mhm,
So it will incorporate things like you know. Um, Slapping, kicking, punching, biting, you know, throwing somebody around, that kind of stuff. Now, for some people, rough body play is a little bit more competitive, where they kind of start off like wrestlers and they're kind of practicing takedowns and things like that. And it's a little bit more, for them, it's a little bit more competitive. That's not the way in which I go about it. Basically, I'm the top and I'm going to take you down and I'm going to hurt you and I'm going to, use pressure points and stomp you and all kind of stuff like that. And in consideration of what's been agreed upon for the scene.
mhm,
Primal play, again, there are people that do primal play, and they include things like um, um, puppy play and howling at the moon and um, being pack animals and chasing somebody through the forest and all that kind of stuff. I don't do all that. My primal play is really centered around getting outside of the civilized expectations of how you should behave and behaving more animalistic in the sense of fighting and thinking thinking of your partner, bottom or whatever, as food.
Alrighty
Literally.
then.
Um, Sniffing your food, biting your food, devouring your food, attacking your food, capturing your food. So it's a lot like rough body play, but more with aspects of treating them as food.
Right. So I'm really hearing that predator prey piece in
Yeah.
the primal play. I you know, I so I took a class from you a million years ago, and one of the things that has always stuck with me is um I think I don't even remember exactly what it was, whether it was like brat taming a brat or something like that. But what you said was, or at least this is what I heard. So what I heard was about holding space for the sub I remember it being about like, brat play, and that being sort of the submissive, you know, not being 100% compliant. And what you said or what you invited was this idea that to give the sub a little bit of space, not too much, but a little bit of space to get that out, to wear themselves out, and how that gives space for more trust. Because yes, you can squash them right away, but if you can allow them to have that emotion, if you can allow them to have that space, that you are actually allowing them to know that more of them is welcome there. And again, this is what I heard
Yeah.
or took away from it. And I'm wondering if you could speak to that at all.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about, excuse me, when I'm thinking about rough body play or even primal play, I think something I didn't mention was the fact that the bottom is clearly um, um, given space to be as violent as they want. Um, so this is one of the great things about rough body play, and in particular primal play, is that it's not one directional. So it's not that I'm just punching or stomping or whatever. They can actually fight back. And this is very, very, um, it can be very, very cathartic. Excuse me. For those people who've never had the opportunity to actually physically vent out. And it makes a lot of sense if you're doing, heavy impact play or incorporating some pain into your scene, that they would be able to actually vent out if that was the case. Not everybody wants to, but some people will. And
Mhm.
in the case of primal play, as much as I love biting, I love being bitten as well. So I welcome anybody to try and bite me or do whatever you want to me. In most cases, in all the cases, I still remain the top, and
Mhm.
I still have the responsibilities of protecting that bottom, even in their thrashing around, even in their trying to attack me. Um, my job is to make sure that they're safe while they are having their cathartic release and trying to beat me up. Um, but it's that is very, very connecting, and it's also a really good source for people to feel a sense of empowerment, because the other approach is in the far in the far in the other direction is stoicism, where you know they kind of just kind of freeze up and don't want to move or don't want to do anything, which is fine also, and that's just a different style of play. But if there is energy erupting up, if there's anger, if there's like primalness erupting up, the ability to let them actually express that out is incredible.
Mhm.
So I've been kicked, I've been spat at, I've been scratched, I've been punched, I've been kicked in the groin, I've been, you can do whatever you want. I'm not afraid. We're gonna have fun.
I love that you've that's gonna be fun. But I definitely hear that piece around, like, having that permission to have that experience, and I think that speaks to the healing process of BDSM. We haven't really talked a lot about that, but in my experience, and I believe in yours as well, there have been situations where it's like BDSM can be, as you mentioned, very cathartic and very healing.
Yeah. Um, the body is an amazing thing. It 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 remembers, it holds energy, negative, positive, and sometimes it becomes kind of a closed container that doesn't that isn't allowed to actually express what's actually going on inside. So it's kind of like cracking an egg. You can get that what's inside the egg to kind of flow out. Um, and some people's shell is more like a boulder. You'll never crack it. And while some people are a little bit more fragile, you have to be very careful because the slightest thing can crack their shell. And so for people to actually have physical expression, physical emotional expression, it's very that's incredible.
Hmm.
And you can do that. It doesn't have to come from extreme pain. It can come for just giving a hug. I I talk about in my pro dom work, sometimes in the beginning of the sessions, it's happened more than once. It's not that it happens all the time, but it happens quite frequently. That in the beginning of a session, while we're beginning the pro dom session, me grabbing them and hugging them or picking them up and hugging them, it's not unusual for somebody to start crying, you know, because the body has all this emotion in it that gets kind of pressed down. And if you can actually open that valve up a little bit and allow some of those emotions to come out, and that requires trust.
Hmm.
And if you can allow that to actually happen, that's an incredible experience for somebody to have. It
Hmm.
really is. And it generally comes out of the physical connection with somebody. Like I said, if I'm hugging somebody or just touching somebody, it transmits a communication to them that they can let go. And few of us have times we can do that.
Got it. So tell me a little bit more about how people can work with you. You have your classes, you have your pro dom sessions. Tell me more.
Oh, so I'm usually in the dungeons most Saturday nights and stuff. Um, whenever the parties are. I also do pro dom work. So I have a website, Loving Dominance, and um, my pro dom work is centered around BDSM, but in a loving manner.
Hmm.
So for some people, they're just looking for light spanking. Some people want some domination. Some people want a harder scene. But however I do it, it's always done from the aspect of love. So that's why I call my website Loving Dominance. Also, I just got certified for Bondage and Elysium, which are practices around massage, but full body massage with a little bit of spice of kink thrown in. Um, but it is a full body massage, and by full body I mean full body massage, which is more focused on um, the client's pleasure and maybe ecstatic experience. Um, Not necessarily orgasm, but definitely the ecstatic experience and pleasure.
And I
Um,
just want to add, as somebody who's received bondage and gives bondage as well, that when we add in the sensory deprivation, it becomes such a deep personal experience that it's like the ability to connect with self in a way and the ability to have connection with another is really quite profound. Um,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. A lady Claire who taught me, who was my instructor, she recognized that I would be good at it because she knew that my scenes were not just about hitting somebody with a toy. It was really about touch. And
Hmm.
Bondage and Elysium is all about touch.
Hmm.
And the benefits of touch, the quality of touch, and the benefits that you get from touch from another human being.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I really love it a lot. Also, I teach private flogging or BDSM classes, which is really nice. These things are on my website. And then I teach community classes from time to time. I'm teaching a class on a hands-on impact play class uh, in January. Not sure if this podcast will be out in time for people to actually go to that, but I'm teaching a hands-on flogging class in January and also a class on impact play in January as well. So throughout the year, I'm asked to teach classes, and if there is a organization somewhere in the country or in the Bay Area that's wants to invite me to teach a class, by all means. I don't really reach out to people to teach classes.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer people vetting me and knowing who I am and inviting me to teach classes as opposed to me filling out applications or approaching people. Um, the way it used to be in the old days, you were approached by organizations because of your experience and um, being vetted in the community. And so I still kind of prefer it being that way.
Yeah, and I know you've been an advocate for and a regular at Folsom Street. Um, and I know that you've also been a regular at Dark Odyssey. So we're getting to the end of our time together, and I just want to say, as we've gone through lots of places in our conversation, if there's one thing that you would like people to get out of our conversation, what might that be?
It would be the interpersonal connection with other people. And if I could be more specifically, it really has to do with love. Most people are starving for love in one way or another. And I think that approaching somebody for a scene, to be masterful, to be a dominant, love is kind of like the first thing that you need to really like focus on. And I'm not saying you have to fall in love and you have to, you know, be all that, but the capacity to love another human being and to approach that person with love is a powerful, powerful element. And it's better than your flogger, it's better than your whip, it's better than your cane, because when it really comes down to it, people, while they're interested in you spanking them or caning them, what they're really interested in is you,
Mm.
what you can bring to that connection.
Ah, so good. Thank you so much. I'm really just delighted to have you here, and thank you for your wisdom and your willingness. And as we wrap up, I just want to remind people that better sex and relationships aren't about doing more. Like Master Hines says, they're about love, they're about connection, they're about presence. And if today's conversation stirred something in you, I invite you to stay curious. I invite you to think about some of the things we've said here today. And if you're ready for support, I invite you to head over to deborahcott.com, check out the show notes, look up Master Hines, and I invite you to just look for the mentorship that we've been talking about. So thank you again.
Can I plug some things?
Absolutely, please
Yeah.
do.
So you can reach out to me at Master Hines BDSM at gmail.com for email. I'm on FetLife Master Hines, one word, Hines. And you can go to my website, www.lovingdominance.com, if you want to learn about my pro-dom services.
Awesome. Thank you. I was headed in that direction. So again, please check him out. FetLife, email and the website. And if you want to keep these conversations going, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with somebody who you know might benefit. So again, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Master Hines. I'm
Thanks for having me.
so happy for this conversation. And bye for now.